Hey, 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 name a better duo than the Philadelphia Flyers and underutilized, unsigned, or undervalued prospects. Today we are talking about an idea tossed out there by Elliotte Friedman on the recent edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast. What he talks about is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Philadelphia Flyers and how these teams converge to potentially make a trade conversation happen. Now, the main idea that this video is going to focus on is AHL Toronto Marlies forward Nick Robertson. And I had to stutter a little bit by saying that because I was initially going to say Toronto Maple Leafs forward Robertson, but no, Robertson did not make the team, unfortunately. If you've been following the channel, you probably would have seen the videos we have made about Robertson over the past few years, how this guy was one of the top prospects in the Maple Leaf system as an overage player in the draft because he was so young and so good at scoring goals in the OHL. That carried over into his AHL tenures, but with injuries striking at the helm, Nick Robertson was never able to fully be a Toronto Maple Leaf for 82 games in any of the following years. This is why this season was seen as a make-or-break year. If Robertson could be good enough to force himself onto this Maple Leafs roster and play 82 games, beat out the fact that he was waiver exempt and that he could get sent down with no real repercussions, actually break out in the ways that his older brother Jason Robertson has broken out. Okay, maybe not that good, because Jason at least, is a 100-point player. I don't think anybody's expecting Nick to be that anytime soon. As long as Nick Robertson was good enough to break in, this could be his chance for the taking. Unfortunately, though, he did not make the team. He got sent back down, and now it is yet another season of Maple Leafs fans wanting more out of Robertson, saying, okay, he's going to be the first call-up. That's it. We just got to wait for somebody to get injured. Once Robertson is the call-up, that is his chance to shine. But now, because this entire thing has been going on for the past few years, you had Elliotte Friedman say this on the recent 32 Thoughts podcast during the summer. And I'm saying summer and not the recent episode because we're going to follow this up by what he said on the recent episode, so calm down. This is a tweet by Joseph Zita, who tweeted out how the Philadelphia Flyers were apparently a team involved here. Friedman, back in June, said that one guy Philadelphia has had some interest in before has been Nick Robertson, and Robertson might be the kind of guy that could need a fresh start and will probably like one. I don't know how they would feel about him now. Unfortunately, he's battled some injuries and some unfortunate luck the past couple of years, but I do know that Robertson is a guy the Flyers have liked in the past. So, that was June. What did Friedman say yesterday that kind of followed up in the same vein? Friedman said on the most recent edition of 32 Thoughts, the one thing I wonder about here is Robertson. If he doesn't make the team, which he didn't, I'm wondering if they're just going to have to find somewhere else to give him a fresh start, because I think Gregor is going to get signed. Now, yeah, spoiler alert, Noah Gregor was signed by the Toronto Maple Leafs. The news was broken up by his uncle, Jason Gregor of Daily Faceoff. Kind of funny how that works. But either way, Gregor is signed, Robertson is still down there in the AHL, and there was some interest in the past of the Philadelphia Flyers with Robertson. Is this idea still explorable, and is it one that's worth talking about? Well, if you wanted to get my 2 cents on this situation, I feel like Nick Robertson is still one of these guys that has just shown off so well everywhere he has played outside of the National Hockey League that you can't help but respect what it is that he could become at the top level. Sure, he has had a limited sample size here and there, 15 games played a previous year, he had 10 games played the year before that, but in a limited sample, Nick Robertson was not really able to do all too much, and you could say it's because the Toronto Maple Leafs are a team that didn't really give him that chance to shine. Philadelphia does not have a player like Auston Matthews on their team. They don't have a Marner, they don't have a Tavares, they don't have a William Nylander. There are spots for the taking here with the Philadelphia Flyers in the short and long term. Sure, long term you could say you're expecting guys like Tyson Forrester, Matvei Michkov, Cutter Gauthier, and Morgan Frost to really take those next steps and become top-tier players, but the fact is, Nick Robertson is on a path where you could debate he is potentially a bit more ready than some of these other younger guys, and if you wanted to try to force him into the lineup a bit sooner, this might be an appropriate type of move for a guy like Robertson who still has more to prove. He's not as big as his brother Jason. Jason is a behemoth, 6'3", something like that, and he is one of the top wingers in the entire NHL today. But Nick Robertson, as a smaller forward who arguably has a better shot and who's a little bit more nimble, a little bit more quick, there is a different type of skill set here and one that you really need to see to believe, to acknowledge just how good it is. And besides, if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, who really cares about it at this point? You got Fraser Minten, you got Matthew Knies, young guys that made the team and overtook players like Robertson in the lineup. If there was some sort of an idea asking, okay, maybe we could trade Robertson away, give him the opportunity to be an NHL player because he's not going to do that here, you'll be setting yourselves up pretty nicely, as well as setting the player up too. This is something that Kyle Dubas was a pretty good advocate of, how he acknowledged that if his team did not have space for players, he would trade the players away to opportunities where they would play. Alex Barabanov is the guy who comes to my mind right away, is a guy that Kyle Dubas was very willing to trade away for cheap, because he knew that he wouldn't be able to give Barabanov the opportunity that he promised. There was a sort of acceptance and respect there that I don't think has been all too present in the way Nick Robertson has been tossed around so far. Like, I get it, there's a difference there because Barabanov was a free agent, he had chose to sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a little different because you had Nick Robertson who was drafted. It's not the same situation, but at the same time you could understand the similarities here. If you're on the train that Nick Robertson has shown off enough that he deserves an NHL spot, why not send him to a team that could actually use him, and could actually benefit from the other players they have? I mean, Morgan Frost isn't the biggest guy in the world, also an OHL product, and a player who has some great playmaking and good mobility. I feel like there's a lot to learn there for a guy like Nick Robertson if he's playing with somebody like Frost, who is tasked with being a top dog on his team in Philadelphia. Especially if the Flyers have had interest in Robertson in the past. Hey, nowadays, it's like, it's not injuries that are slowing him down, it's just the roster turnover and who else is on the Maple Leafs that is giving him less of an opportunity. So at the end of the day, if you're a Philadelphia Flyers fan, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Toronto Maple Leafs young forward Nick Robertson, and would you like to go after this guy in some sort of a trade? There were some interesting ideas about this floating around a few years ago, but now that Robertson has not made the team once more, Friedman is suggesting that a trade could be in the works or could be even talked about. So Philadelphia is the team to re-enter those conversations once more. What do you think the repercussions of that are going to be? Do you think Robertson has a spot in the Philadelphia Flyers lineup in 23-24? And if you do think so, what is the trade price that gets this done? Philly fans, let me know your thoughts as to what you feel is the most you'd be okay with giving up in some sort of a Robertson trade. Maple Leafs fans, same thing but opposite. Do you want to trade Robertson away? And what's the minimum package you'd be fine with in accepting a deal to send Robertson away? Do you still care about this prospect as much as you did a few years ago? Because back when Robertson was in the OHL, he was scoring a bunch of goals, and you had a lot of people comparing him to Cole Caulfield, debating who's better, Caulfield or Robertson, Caulfield or Robertson. Of course, there was a Montreal-Toronto angle there that supplemented that idea, but at the end of the day, Robertson was extraordinarily hyped all the way back 3-4 years ago. Nowadays, you got Fraser Minten, Matthew Knies, other guys overtaking Robertson's sort of star power in the conversation. How does that affect the way you see this player? Do you think it's okay for him to get traded? Would you prefer for him to get traded so he actually gets playing time in the NHL? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Robertson-Toronto-Philadelphia talks. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.